Hello, I am Jason and welcome to an episode of Historically Marked. This is a State Capitals edition, and right behind me is the most important building in the state of Missouri. That's right, the Missouri State Capitol. I am in Jefferson City, or locals or statewide, it's known as Jeff City for shortness. But I got lots of history to show you. I'm going to show you the outside of the Capitol, like the grounds, and we're going to go in, take you inside the museum briefly, and check out the lawmakers' offices. So it's gonna be a fun one. And yes, I know I'm hot and sweating. Heat advisory today, so don't mind me, I'm just sweating. All right, on with the tour. So this is actually the 5th Capitol building in Missouri overall. I'll get to the history on that in a second, but I thought I'd show you the Missouri River because the Capitol was meant to overlook the Missouri River. And as people who have been to Jeff City would know, this building highlights the skyline. It's easy to see, it's easy to view, and it's easy to get to because there's signs from the highway that take you to the Capitol building. So this is the 3rd Capitol building here in Jefferson City, as the other 2 burned down. This current Capitol building was opened in 1917. Going back to the first Capitol building being built here, a brick one was built in 1826. When the Capitol was moved here, but it burned down in 1837. The grounds of where it was now is now where the Missouri current governor's mansion now is. And then a new Capitol building was built, but by 1911 it was struck down by lightning, and eventually a fire broke out and it was destroyed. However, several documents of state records were saved thanks to many people who worked during the aftermath. This included prisoners, volunteers, and politicians. But overall, it was always the state government's intention to build it in a place in Jeff City where there was a great view of the Missouri River. The Capitol building is 437 feet long and 300 feet wide at its center. All 4 floors are open to the public. However, the very top of the dome is open on a limited basis. On top of the dome, I know it's very hard to see, but there is a statue, and it's a lady figure named Ceres, the goddess of agriculture. On one hand, she is holding a sheaf of grain, the other outstretched to bestow her blessing on this fertile land. As far as the architecture of this building, it's a classical theme. It was designed by New York City architectural firm Tracy and Schwarzwald. The Baroque dome is loosely modeled after St. Peter's Basilica in Rome, Italy. In 1969, the Capitol was added to the National Register of Historic Places. And usually when I go to state capitals, I like to talk about state facts, so here I go. Missouri was admitted to the Union as a 24th state on August 10th, 1821. The overall state population as of 2023 is 6.1 million. It is the 18th largest state by area. 2 U.S. presidents once lived in Missouri. Harry S. Truman, of course, and Ulysses S. Grant. The top 5 largest cities in order go like this. Number 5, Independence, which is somewhat a standalone city, but it is also a suburb of Kansas City. But I'd go either way. Number 4, Columbia, Missouri. No surprise, I mean, it is the home of Mizzou, or the University of Missouri, and it is the college town of Missouri, and a lot of people have chosen to live there after attending school, so that should come as no surprise. Number 3 is Springfield. Number 2 is St. Louis. And number 1 is Kansas City. Now, St. Louis was at one time the 4th largest city in America. And for various reasons, yes, it has lost a lot of population. I'm not going to go into the whole history of that. But it wasn't until the 1970s or 80s, I believe it was, Kansas City did surpass St. Louis in population growth. However, both metro cities have at least 2 million residing, so it's a win-win there. And here are some other fun factoids about Missouri. Missouri currently has the distinction of having the center of mean population in the United States, and that point is located near Hartville. Missouri did not have an official state flag until 1908. That's nearly a century after it achieved statehood. Wow. And as far as the history of the state capital, now St. Louis was the unofficial state capital. I mean, they don't really recognize themselves as the first state capital. with that going to St. Charles, which is nearby from there. But the original state capitol building was in St. Charles, Missouri, but they wanted to move it to the central part of the state here in Jeff City, and that they did. But yeah, so it is kind of a little sticky history of Missouri. And yes, it is the Show Me State. It is called the Show Me State for a reason. I mean, it's very diverse in a lot of things. There's lots of hills, mountains, plains, flatlands, city, rural, you name it, Missouri has it. I guess you can probably say the same about a lot of other states. What do I know? So the first thing I'm going to show you outside the building is this Liberty Bell replica. I think all 50 states have one of these. A lot of them are either inside or outside their capitol buildings. But yes, this is the Missouri's Liberty Bell replica, and it's got the, well, it's not a real crack, but it's made to look like it. Not too far from it is the Missouri Law Enforcement Memorial. This actually is almost 30 years old. This was dedicated on June 17th. Actually, it is 30 years old, and it's a few days ago as I'm doing this video. June 17th, 1994. Plaques on the walls contain the names of an officer, his or her position, their city or town, and the date he or she died. This is very interesting and very great that they do something to memorialize all those in the line of duty. So right here is the front, technically the front of the Capitol, but I'm going to take you this way to the southern part. So this is technically the south part of the Capitol, and you get a nice view from where I'm standing. You can also see the US 54 and 63 bridge just right over there. But there are the statues of the Missouri and the Mississippi rivers, well, representations of them in human form. But there's also the statue of Thomas Jefferson. So, and I believe today, I think they're only letting people in through this entrance, so I'm going to get closer and check it out. And like I said, this is the south entrance of the Capitol, and what you'll find here is a large statue of Thomas Jefferson. It is 13 feet tall, and of course Jefferson City is named after our third president. He rightfully stands upon the front steps of the Capitol. Jefferson was an accomplished writer, architect, scholar, scientist, advocate for freedom of speech, among many other titles. And of course, he was primarily responsible for the Louisiana Purchase. Now, the sculptor was James Earl Fraser, and it is one of the finest statues of Jefferson in existence. I wish I can get up really close to it, but unfortunately, maybe if I just kind of go up these steps a little bit. But yeah, that's about as close as I'll get, because yeah, like I said, it's really tall and he's on a large pedestal. But the inscription just says third president of the United States, author of the Declaration of Independence, and father of the Louisiana Purchase. That's what it says in the front there, in case you're wondering. Now, I was not able to go up there, but they got it blocked off. But this is what is known as the carriage access. Back when, I guess, people traveled on horse and buggies. But this is how you get in through those doors right there. So, yeah, pretty cool. I guess this must be where the limos go or something. I don't know. All right, so here I am on the first floor, looking upwards. I'll be getting up there pretty soon on those floors, but here is, I believe, the center.
Kelly Jones.
United we stand, divided we fall. So I guess I'll check this place out real quick. This is the Missouri State Museum. And here are the opening hours. But yeah, I mean, it's everything you want to know about the Show Me State is right here, right in the heart of Jeff City. Although I will show you some portraits of the past governors of Missouri. Very interesting either way to see these portraits. Some were painted, some were photographed. You can tell which ones were painted. Like Kit Bond, or Christopher S. Bond. He's actually still alive today as I'm doing this video. He was one of the youngest governors of Missouri. I think he was actually the youngest one. John Ashcroft, who later served under George W. Bush. And then Mel Carnahan, I remember him. I mean, he tragically was killed in a plane crash as he was actually going to leave office for governor, and he was going to run for Senate, but unfortunately those plans came to an end weeks before the election even started. But his wife did fill his seat. And then Roger Wilson, very short-lived term, and then Bob Holden and Nixon and Eric Schmidt. Eric Schmidt is not the current one. That is Mike Parson. I don't know where his photo would be. I mean, there is a lot of cool stuff here in this museum, but unfortunately I'm not going to show you everything, or any highlights. I mean, it's free. Anyone can come here and check out the history. Now, one thing that's really, really awesome, I think, and I think a lot of states may have also done the same thing, but there's actually a large timeline that extends from the state's founding to current present day. Like the founding of St. Louis, dinosaurs, cavemen, St. Genevieve, Louisiana Purchase, state capital moves to Jefferson City in 1826, founding of Mizzou, the Battle of Westport, the Eads Bridge, Scott Joplin, the St. Louis Cyclone, the World's Fair, Route 66, yeah, that was important. Harry Truman, Dewey defeats Truman, yep, that's right. Now this is interesting. 1959 was when Branson started to become a live entertainment destination. You can talk about Chuck Berry on here. St. Louis Gateway Arch completed in 1965. Kansas City Royals win the World Series, end of Cold War, the Great Flood 93. The Rams win the the Super Bowl. Yeah, I remember when that happened. Now they're in California, in case you didn't know. 9/11 attacks, Joplin tornado, Ferguson protests, the pandemic, World Series Game 6. Yep, one of the best nights of my life there. St. Louis Blues win the Stanley Cup. And of course the Chiefs win the Super Bowl 2020. And then you have all the way to not present day, but 3 years ago when Missouri celebrated its bicentennial. So if you do want to tour the Capitol, I mean, they do have guided tours by professionals who know the ins and outs of the building, but you can also do self-guided tours like what I'm doing, but I would definitely go on the state website and check out when they have them available. I mean, it's free, so you don't have to worry about paying or anything. This here is the Missouri Veterans Gallery. Now I'm looking at this bell here. This was once on the USS Missouri. This 800-pound bell was mounted on the USS Missouri until the ship was decommissioned. The date inscribed on the bell, 1944, is the year the ship was commissioned. Interesting. Here's a uniform that was worn by somebody during the Spanish-American War by Henry Winkelmeyer. And here's by the numbers, the Missourians War Service. Seminole War, 600. Civil War, 147,000. World War I. Very interesting stuff. All the way to 2011. So in this hallway I'm looking at, looks to be a lot of state offices, like a lot of state senator offices are down this hall. Like this one right here is a Senate Committee, room 1. Senate Communications. And another Senate Committee room right there. I find these old-fashioned benches very fascinating. And just up that way is the State Treasurer's office, where I'm pointing. So yeah, State Treasurer. Vivek Milek. And here's a little peek inside his office. There's a photo of Ronald Reagan on the wall and Gandhi. And then of course this is the staircase. Now I read somewhere there's supposed to be statues of Lewis and Clark, but I don't see any bronze statues of them. Like supposedly they're supposed to be on top of the staircase, but what I'm seeing here is a bear. Okay. So now I'm on the second floor, and I'll be getting up much higher. But now I'm going to show you the door to the governor's office. Very nice. Of course it's blocked, but nobody can go in there. Bother the guy. I don't even think he's here at the moment, but I'll see what's down here. So it looks to be more legislative offices. Looking at some of these paintings up here. Meaning of Washington Irving and Kit Carson at the Arrow Rock Tavern. Huh, I was just there about a month ago. And then Trader at Fort Carondelet in the Fort Orleans in 1720. This here is the Lieutenant Governor's office. And why am I echoing? Okay. Really nice. Actually, the entrance is over here. That's just the outside of it. Yeah, Mike Cahoe is his name. And it's open. Here's some more murals. I'm sorry it's a little dark, but kind of the way it is. And it's loud. People are working on stuff in here. Meaning construction. The Battle of Sacramento in 1847. And you can tell this is kind of like, see that painting up there? I don't even know who that's supposed to be. But yeah, this is kind of like the, I've never been there. I still have yet to go there, but it's kind of like the Sistine Chapel, you know. If people are going to paint stuff on the ceiling, then hey. Here is a painting of the Indian attack on the village of St. Louis, 1780. I'm going to do a video on that sometime down in the future, but that is where Ballpark Village and the Hilton stand, if you know what I'm talking about, in downtown St. Louis. Now I'm on the third floor, and here we have the Hall of Famous Missourians, like a St. Louisan right here, Susan Blow, who was an educator, author, lecturer, and if you saw my Bella Fountain Cemetery video, the first one, I visited her grave, and she established the first public school kindergarten. Yep, that's her. She established the first kindergarten. Here's a close-up of her. I'm not going to show you all the famous Missourians, but I'll show you at least a few. This is Walter Cronkite, passed away in 2009. He is originally from St. Joseph, but he's buried in Kansas City. But yeah, he was a famous evening newscaster. I think it was CBS back in the 1960s and 70s. He famously reported the Kennedy assassination, and that's the way it is. There's all kinds of different people, from politicians to entertainers to people who helped change the world from Missouri, who are engraved in the Hall of Famous Missourians. Like this guy right here, one of the first African-American, actually one of the first pop stars, Scott Joplin, who was known as the King of Ragtime. He was born in Texas. He spent most of his time in Sedalia and St. Louis, but he is known for his compositions, Cascades, as well as The Entertainer. And as one would expect, Mark Twain, yes, he is engraved here. One of my first videos on this channel was checking out the Mark Twain sites in Hannibal. And how do you not pay tribute to your sports stars? Well, yeah, Stan Musial, that's him. Nice close-up of him. I visited his grave as well as his plaque at the Cooperstown Hall of Fame, and now I can say I visited his bust here at the Capitol. Right across from him is Jack Buck. I recently visited his grave at Jefferson Barracks, but yes, well-known St. Louis figure. And lastly, I'll just show you Harry Truman, Harry S. Truman. I visited his gravesite several years ago, as well as his home in Independence, but I definitely want to go back and do a video there. But yes, this Hall of Missourians would not be complete without this guy, because yes, he is the first president to hail from Missouri, and so far the only. Well, I wouldn't count U.S. Grant. Well, I kind of would, but whatever. And fittingly, that bust of Truman is right in front of the House chambers. Progress is the law of life, it says up there. And of course, I can't go back there, but this looks to be a maintenance or coffee making, ice making room. Thought I'd take a peek anyway. And here's some more district representative offices down this way. And like some of the other state capitals I've been in, they have like posters of all the representatives of previous years, like the General Assembly. Like this is from 2011 to 2012. You got all the state officers, the House staff, and of course you got Jay Nixon, the governor, and everybody who has represented Missouri during that term. That's a cool painting of Mark Twain with a cigar in his hand. Now, whenever the Senate is in session, I mean, the public is invited to sit on the 4th floor and watch, but of course they can't take any photos or video like what I'm doing. So I thought I'd check out the 3rd floor a little bit, because you get a little nice view of the top of the dome. I don't know who painted the very top part, but I can tell you who painted the mural all around, which depicted a lot of Missouri frontier life. And for whatever reason, you know, at the time it was painted up here, it was deemed controversial, but it was painted by Thomas Hart Benton. Now, you may have heard of Thomas Hart Benton. There was actually 2 guys named Thomas Hart Benton. One was one of the original 2 senators of the state of Missouri. Now, his great nephew, I believe it was also named Thomas Hart Benton, but this guy was a Kansas City based artist. He painted a lot of murals. A lot of them are really famous, especially, I mean, they're all over the country, and especially at the Smithsonian. And if you go to the Country Music Hall of Fame, you'll see his last painting, The Country Music Legends. But anyway, this work of art surrounding the 3rd floor on top is also done by Thomas Hart Benton, the artist. So very, very cool. So here I am on the 4th floor, the top floor I should say, and lots of legislative offices and more galleries of the General Assembly. Like this is from 1931 and 1932. All the people that represented parts of Missouri. Very cool. And then this is the press box. All right, taking little steps. Now down here is known as the Legislative Library, but as you can see, is being remodeled at the moment. Like they're painting the pillars and doing some reorganizing. There's some huge bookshelf right over there. You can't really see it because of the light. And there's another one right over there. Here is the Missouri War Veterans Monument area. This is the Gold Star Family Memorials Monument. And if you go down this pathway, it's a tribute to those who fought in all the wars and conflicts, such as the Spanish-American War. Like this one is World War I, World War II, and so forth. And then here is the Bicentennial Bridge. That is a large structure in Missouri with the Missouri River. I don't know if you can see it. All right, so here I am close to it. It's got a nice sparkle to it. But yeah, see that glitter down there? Definitely a cool selfie spot if you ask me. And then here's also the Guardians of Liberty fountain. The Fountain of the Centaurs. And behind that is the signing of the Treaty Monument. I'll just get up closer to that. So this sculpture right here was designed by Carl Bitter for the 1904 St. Louis World's Fair. It depicts Robert Livingston standing, James Monroe seated, and Francis Barbarois signing the treaty by which the United States acquired Louisiana Territory from France in 1803. The transaction is commonly known as Louisiana Purchase, and Missouri became the second state formed out of this purchase. Now, Jefferson, who was the president, wanted control of New Orleans, the major trading port on the Mississippi River. And but he purchased all this land from Napoleon, the ruler of France at the time. And Napoleon was in need of money because England was about to declare war on his country. So it was kind of a win-win either way. I mean, the United States literally expanded in size, double the size, I should say. But then the rest is history. Lewis and Clark explored the new part of the country. And again, I'm going to take a little nice peek at this. Signing the treaty.